Rack and Roll, Shadows of Centris, Koa's Conundrums. Koa's communicator starts buzzing, and with a smile he answers it. He knows who it is. "Hello, Amadi, how's your day?" he asks as he notes with amusement that Nika is still holding despite now being parallel to the spire beneath him. The girls had decided to hang onto his arms again and snuggle close. "Free. From what I understand, Reggie's with his shrink, so I thought I'd at least touch base with you. I've had it hinted, none too subtly, that we should go on another walkabout and see what we shake up. What's your schedule like? Reggie's open tomorrow and his wives are busy, and I've got it off until mid-afternoon before I got to do a shift till midnight." Sounds like a hoot. It would be time enough to plan the next part of what's going on here anyways. "What's going on? Finally convince those little bimbos that humans are real?" Amadi asks. "It took a visit to the doctor to do it, but I've gotten through to them," Koa remarks, and there's a chuckle from the other side. "Good. I'm glad things got sorted out before someone got hurt," Amadi says, and Koa doesn't say anything. Oh shit. How close were you?" "Close enough that I really laid down the law after. Oh, by the way, that trick you told me about, pumping Axiom into adrenaline to hypercharge the supercharge. Yay. The world seems to straight out stop, but you can still move." "Just as I thought, it's a quick and dirty way to get right next to outright time manipulation. You know, some people just jack up their speed enhancement through the roof, right?" Koa asks, and there's a sigh from Amadi. "There's a certain threshold that some people struggle with. Not to mention this stacks on top until we can get to truly ludicrous levels. Personal acceleration, adrenal hypercharging, and temporal manipulation. All three together and your every twitch will cause a sonic boom." Amadi boasts and Koa snorts in amusement. "Anyways, if you're saying we've got a semi-official day with the boys tomorrow, then I like the sound of that. I'm in." "Good. We'll meet up on the Dauntless, pick a spire at random and start mucking around," Amadi says, and Koa nods. "Sounds like a plan. See you then." "See ya." Amadi finishes and the call ends. Then the walk continues. "All right, so with all the excitement of the incident and our doctor's appointment, I honestly forgot what this sort of nonsense is called," Koa remarks as he tries to figure out the stupid term. "We're adopting a sister bride. Normally, a lot of girls try to sign up, but we kept things quiet, and Centris has so many women that putting up any kind of signs or official hunt would have us drowning in girls wanting to join up. Aren't you already dodging a lot of propositions from girls you never met? Those kind of communications are automatically blocked and filtered away. Half of the hack was an obscene data dump of trillions of propositions to the men stationed on the ship." Koa answers, and Nita starts giggling at the idea. "Well, that's what you get for looking too cute. Honestly, an entire species of lonely hurt men that are doing everything they can to seem as strong as they don't expect to find or deserve love." Nika rants a little before letting out a sigh and snuggling into Koa even more. "I'm surprised the whole ship hasn't been straight up invaded by women with marriage propositions. We've actually had the Dauntless lift up a few times to keep larger hordes from piling in. Of course, for flying races, that just encourages the lunatics, but after a few shouted warnings followed by bullets, they got the picture. That wasn't on the news. No one wanted to fess up to that mess. The hack and the first few waves of crazy, thirsty thoughts was an enormous embarrassment for everyone involved, and we all made to try and forget it despite putting steps into place to prevent either from happening again. What's a thought? An abbreviation of that hoe over there, a general insulting term for a woman who thinks more with her lust, delusions of romance or dresses, or behaves in such a way. Basically, it's an insult for lusty women. Koa explains as the lift brings them all up to the next level and the destination they're now an hour and a half late from due to rampant stupidity. "All right, we're on the right level. Which way now?" Koa asks, and Nika points forward and slightly to the left. There's a sign that says Bachelor Barn. Really? It's a legitimate place to go. Girls register and can be called in for an interview. It has their jobs, their name and species, and a picture. If it looks like it'll be a good match, they can be called in to marry. What about dating and wooing? Seeing if it's going to be a good match? Oh please, the important part is being with the guy. Love comes after you've had a few bounces and kept him safe. In most marriages, a girl doesn't usually get a whole lot of time with their man, so it's less about how well they like the man, and more about that she's got a man, Nika explains, and Koa stops. I don't want to bring someone into a loveless marriage. You're in heat most of your life. There'll be plenty of loving big man, Nita remarks. Wrong kind of love, sister, Nika says quickly. Then she leans in and kisses Koa on the side of the head before letting go to flutter in front of him. My husband? She seems a little uncertain of what to say for a moment before sighing. Koa, you come from a very strange, very different part of the galaxy. Me and Nita have made mistakes, this is true, but we do know how these things work out here. Back in cruel space, it's probably easily possible and even preferable to love everyone you're married to, maybe even your whole family. It's just not something that can be done out here. What a girl gets out of marriage is sex, daughters, and a group that has her back. What the man gets is safety, stuff, and a group that has his back. Love is an extra. Loyalty is what's expected. Everyone wants love, but actually getting it is different. Our mother hates our father. They don't make love, they hate fuck. They scream abuse at each other even as he pumps her full of more daughters. Explanation given, Nika lets herself lower to the ground and sighs a little, then lets out a slight sound of surprise as Koa picks her up and gives her a hug. That's a terrible way to live, Koa remarks. Well, if that's the way things are, it's no wonder that every relationship that's been struck up has been a huge success. Working at all to make it work is just weird in the galaxy where the harems are so huge, you only have to deal with the ones you like on the regular and the rest only when you're horny. It's both funny and depressing that Earth's largest export is likely going to be loving relationships. Good Lord. Still, diplomatically speaking, that's an absolute win. It really matters to you, doesn't it? Nita asks, and Koa nods. It does. A home without love is a terrible way to raise a child, let alone an awful way to live. Most can't afford a house that big, even with 100 girls working together. It's just not practical, Nika remarks as she snakes her arms around Koa's neck and nuzzles in with a sigh of contentment. Still, just trying on that level means a lot. You've been so good to Nita and me, but we haven't been as good to you. So we're finding some backup to help get you what you deserve. Back home, there are some people that would think I don't even deserve this. Koa rumbles in his chest before sighing. You deserve better. You're a man. You need to be looked after, not holding us up and keeping our acts clean. Now come on, Nika says, fluttering up and away and gripping onto Koa's left arm and pulling him behind her to the bachelor barn. As he lets himself get led forward and takes in more of the spire, there's a sound of power tools nearby. Some construction or maintenance is going on. A lot of metalwork is going on as the sounds remind him of the busier days in the gun manufacturing chambers, which makes him think it's been some time since he last upgraded or fiddled with his gear, hasn't it? Uzis were fun, but something with a bit more bang would be nice. Perhaps something in the range of a battle rifle. Centris is certainly dangerous enough to qualify for it. Nita climbs onto his shoulders and leans over in such a way to rest her breasts on top of his head. Is there a reason you're doing that? Koa asks as the door to the bachelor barn opens in front of him and he pauses. Your hair feels neat like this, Nita remarks as Koa takes in what looks like a combination of a restaurant that favors booths and a government services building. Nika leads him and Nita to the front desk and takes a number before landing at Koa's feet. There are about 14 spots ahead of them, but they're all being stared at heavily by the actual workers behind the counter desk. He helpfully points towards the desk and they get back to work. It takes roughly a half hour of waiting before their number is brought up and they're called to the front. "Well, hello, Mr. Man. I assume you and these little metak are looking for another wife," the receptionist asks, and Nika flutters up to stand on the desk. "Get off the desk. It's for paperwork, not feet." "Then don't make 'em so tall," Nika protests, then lets out a squeak as Koa lifts her up by her thighs and holds her off the desktop. "We're looking to bring in at least one more. All three of us got the muscle. My sister and I are security, and the big man is one of them humans. We've got an apartment on Gillen Spire. Think you can hook us up?" "So you're looking for a well-educated partner near Gillen Spire. Okay, that narrows things down a lot." The receptionist, whose name tag reads Emma C., states as she starts typing. The Tret woman quickly brings up a few profiles and nods to herself. "All right, Booth 8 has 10 profiles uploaded. Most are fairly young, but we've got a case or two of girls who fell out of their marriages for one reason or another," Emma explains, and Koa frowns. A situation must be really bad if these girls who don't expect actual love leave or are thrown out. "Is something wrong?" "Are divorces common?" Koa asks. "Somewhat. It's usually because there's major friction in the marriage or one of the girls has been arrested or forced to move for one reason or another. Girls don't normally leave so much as get forced out." Emma explains and Koa nods. "Makes sense," Koa says. "Thank you for your time." "You're quite welcome. Come on, hubby. We've got to find out who we're bringing in." Nika cheers and quickly leads him to the booth in question. He then plucks Nita off his head and sets her down to sit next to him, and Nika sits next to her. "Okay, time to see who's who," Nita says, tapping the table that lights up and starts projecting the information above it. Koa couldn't help but spot some tracks in the wall to suggest that the table can be raised or lowered, and so can parts of the booth. Modular is a good way to get around all the different races and physiologies that need to be accounted for. "Hey, most of them are Lyrak," Nita exclaims as she browses through the profiles. Koa taps the species designation of BMH 1100-2, Lyrak. Exceedingly agile and with a protein requirement often seen in carnivores, these squirrel women are nuts for nuts, but also nuts in general, as they're incredibly stubborn with a species-wide case of tunnel vision. Once they set their minds on a singular goal, it's effectively already achieved. It's just a matter of the legalities of things actually being done needing to happen. Koa reads out loud before sighing. "Who writes these profiles?" "They're public domain. Anyone who sets up an account with the Archival Association is allowed to edit them," Nika explains. "So it's Wikipedia, but more prone for abuse due to sheer scale," Koa says with a pinched look. "There are 7 Lyrak in the group, also a rabbi's artist, a Gobi mechanic, and a Charbis chef among the numbers." "So how does this work? Do we just pick one we like the look of and then interview her or something? Do we talk to all of them? None of them? Some of them?" "I like this one. It says that she's the owner of a beauty salon. That's money smarts and management smarts. Also possible makeovers to look extra cute when we need it," Nita explains, and Nika sighs. "We've also got 2 pharmacists, a traffic warden, an accountant, and 2 small business owners, one a courier service and the other an odd job agency." Nika reads out. "I wonder why we got mostly Lyrak." "We do this," Nita says, bringing on the profile of the salon owner and poking the image of the brown-haired squirrel woman. Her shimmering fur and hair certainly makes her look like she takes good care of herself. The fact that Koa considers the gigantic, gravity-defying breasts to be simply normal on her at this point shows just how desensitized he's been to over-the-top female beauty. Her face and figure are close enough to human to be easily emphasized with, but far enough that she avoids the uncanny valley easily. Another poke, and there's a shifting around the table and a small bar fills up. Hello? This is Maurice's hair, feather, hide, fur, and horn styling. Who's calling? Wait, this number is from the bachelor barn. Way to go, boss lady. A voice cheers from the back. Oh my goodness, Marisa. You better get there quick, another voice states. But we're only halfway through your... Marisa begins to protest. I'll pull some extra, boss. You get going, the first voice says, and there's a rushing around. I'm coming quick. This is for an interview, right? Marisa asks. Yep. I'm Nita. Nika and me are bringing in at least one more. We got muscle, but we need smarts, and you got that easy since you own your own business and stuff. Very well, I'm on my way, Marisa says, and Nita ends the call. At this point, she turns to see both Nika and Koa staring at her. What? You would have been talking for a long time and getting nothing done. There's talking, yay, but we need to talk to the new girls and see if we got sister wives out of them, Nita explains, and Koa blinks a few times in confusion. So when I told you to start using your brain, did you turn it on or... Hey, Nita protests as Nika laughs. It takes nearly a half hour for Marisa to arrive, and Nita waves her over hard and heavy. The woman's wearing short shorts and a button-down shirt tied to the front with heeled boots. Beyond that and her makeup, she's got nothing on and leaving little to the imagination. Well, hello! Oh my goodness! You're one of those humans! A pleasure to meet you. I'm Marisa Brushtail. A pleasure to meet you. Marisa introduces herself with a slight dip as she brings her tail around almost like a veil, likely a cultural greeting. And I am Sergeant Koa Jackson, a ground trooper of the Undaunted. Beside me are the twins Nika and Nita, security guards for several private citizens. Koa introduces himself. And the rest? Marisa asks. None yet, Nika says, and Marisa's eyes widen. Then, sit down. We'd like to get to know you, Nika says, gesturing to the seat, and after a twirl that displays her large, bushy tail, Marisa then slinks into the spot and immediately starts fidgeting. Hey, excited? Koa asks, and she nods a lot. Sweetie, you have no idea how things like this go, do you? If you're called into a matchmaking interview, then it's mostly just a formality, Marisa says with her eyes shimmering as she bounces in her seat. I've never even touched a man before. Oh, I can't wait to see what I can do with that hair of yours. What do you call that style? What is it? Cornrows. I have to keep my hair under tight control or it's a big mess of curls. Koa answers with a hand running over his hair. Anyways, interview time, Nika says, and Marisa is suddenly sitting still with her hands in her lap, or rather trying to as the woman is vibrating in her seat. You want in? Nika asks, and she nods. You willing to sacrifice to be part of this? Is answered with another nod. Nika then nods herself. Welcome in then, sister. That's it? Koa demands in shock, and Nika giggles. Different out here, big man. Not that I don't want you to try to follow that human tradition, Nika answers with a giggle. Tradition? What tradition? Marisa asks, looking like she's expecting him to suddenly peel his face off and bite her. Humans have as many men as women, so to them it's only natural to love your family. He wants to make it work. Nika explains with a little shrug, and Marisa blinks. Wait, so you're not only bringing me into a marriage at the ground floor, but with an exotic husband that's going to try and make sure we all feel loved and appreciated. May I just say that it's distressing how the standard home beyond Earth is what we consider a broken one by our standards? Loyalty is definitely needed, but it's only one part of a greater whole. Without love, a family isn't, Koa explains, and Marisa has a dopey smile cross her face. Go ahead, Nika says, and Marisa pounces across the table to start sucking hard on Koa's tongue,